Alright, so today I'm going to be showing y'all my Traxxas Slash race build. Obviously body's not clipped on right now, so it's sitting pretty high. But once you clip it down, it definitely closes the gap a lot. This started off its life as a Traxxas BL-2S, so these are actually pretty new. They've only been out for a little while. There's not really many more out there on the track, and this is definitely the first one that I've seen in my local track running around. So let's dive into it. So we first see our Traxxas low CG chassis. It is a four-wheel drive vehicle, and it came standard with that, which is really nice because it drops it way down. We're running the sensorless brushless 3300 kV, so this one runs about a 13.5-ish equivalent. We have the standard BL-2S brushless speed control. Works fine for me. It does get a little bit toasty, so I'm probably going to end up putting a fan on the speed control. We have standard Traxxas TQ receiver. We are running a MyLapse transponder and a coreless digital servo that's a lot higher torque than the standard Slash's servo, because the one that came on this would actually jump a lot, and the servo saver was really sloppy, so it is definitely one of the best upgrades that I've done to this thing. Transponder is just standard MyLapse, nothing crazy there. I've really done no power mods to this thing. It just has stayed consistent. I don't really want to mess with the power mods because it's actually pretty great. When I ran Mod Buggy, I mean, it was fun to have all that power, but this thing just, for what it is, it rips on a 2S pack, so it's pretty awesome. So the main things I've messed with on this thing, and the biggest things that you can focus on with these, is the tires and the suspension setup, and kind of just how it sits, because if you mess with that stuff, you can actually get this thing to be a fairly competitive little truck. So the obviously very first thing I did was different tires. On the stock setup, it actually made it handle way better. These are Proline Bald Eagles mounted on low C wheels, 12mm hex, pretty standard. There's not really anything super special about them. I saw some with liquid wrench, and they grip really well on like it's kind of like a very, very, very hard clay track that I race on. It's not like standard clay, it's a little special blend. So this thing runs phenomenally, and with the fact that it's four-wheel drive, it just hooks. Like, there's usually no issues whatsoever. The second thing I did was I put on the sway bar kit. So if you see right here, you got your links, you got your sway bar, and these are actually moved inwards to stiffen the front sway bar up a little bit. And I found that is like the sweet spot on this thing, on how it rides, and when it corners, it just digs, which is great. I don't have that crazy body roll, that scale effect that a lot of Slashes have, because that's what they were built to do. They were built to look scale. They weren't built to be crazy competition vehicles, but again, with some modifications, you can do it. So the next thing I did was I got these Proline Power Stroke shocks. These are dual rate. I've never run a dual rate shock before. On all the associated stuff that I have, it's always just been linear, which is, it's good. Like, nothing is wrong with running a linear shock setup, but the thing on these is the springs that initially come with them, and the shocks that come on the truck, have those multi-rate springs that are just way too soft in the beginning and just don't get firm enough near the end of the stroke, and that's what these do. So these are actually preloaded down a bit, so there's not much in the way of initial preload on this. It just allows for the tiniest bit of small bump compliance, and when you're going through corners, it really helps just lean over without leaning on the super stiff part of the spring. So these lower springs are actually decently stiff, and you can see when you press down, it actually compresses that black spring up top. This is the soft one, and this is the medium firm one. So when you press it down, it presses through, and the initial stroke is with this very, not very soft, but decently soft top spring. These are titanium nitride coated shafts, kind of similar to the Kashima coat on a lot of the associated vehicles. They're super smooth, easiest bleeding shocks I've ever done. And they don't even have like bleeder caps on them, so it's kind of a testament to just how well they were built. And they're all aluminum construction. The shafts, again, titanium nitride coated. They're threaded bodies, so you can adjust the preload pretty much indefinitely to whatever you want. But do know that if you adjust it a bunch, it's eventually just going to compress this top soft spring down to where it's just not going to do anything. So you kind of got to find your sweet spot. Another thing I did was, so the actual mounting position down here has been moved from inside to the outside. So it actually brought the center of gravity of the truck down, which is way better. The corner is way better, and it's just way more stable when you're coming around the track. This is still the standard plastic ABS chassis. It's still got the Nerf bars on it. It's still got the rear bumper and front bumper. Nothing crazy changed here. This one uses the clip design, so it doesn't actually use body pins. It just kind of sets down and clips on there. And it works for what it is. It's great. And it actually looks pretty good too when you get the body on. Let's see if I can do this with one hand here. It just clips in super easy. And what I did do though was I was having some rubbing issues actually. When I was running a different wheel setup, they were slightly different offset. So whenever the suspension would compress, it would rub really bad on the inside of the body. As you can see here, it's rubbed through the paint and everything. So trimmed it out a little bit. And then in the front, no matter what wheel setup I was running, whether it was these or the larger wheels, it's actually on this lash over here. That's my sister's. It's just a standard brush 2-wheel drive one. This 4-wheel drive one had so many just rubbing issues on the body, and it was rubbing so much through it that I just had to trim it. So now with the suspension compressed, I can still turn the wheels and it's not rubbing against the body or trying to pull weird directions because it's binding, which is great. Still standard Slash body. I took the brushless stickers off because I don't really care. It's not really for show. I mean, it looks good, but it's more for go. But yeah, this thing, you can pick one of these up and just a few modifications, it can actually be competitive. Like, there are SC6s out there and low-C trucks that this thing will keep up with if you try. And if you're a good enough driver, you can definitely make this thing competitive. I mean, it's still a Traxxas, it's still a Slash. It still has that higher center of gravity than everyone else. It's still going to be a little bit flexy in certain places. There's less adjustability, but you can always change that. And you can actually order on like Amazon, eBay. You can order aluminum chassis pans for this. It's just going to be a little bit of a process getting it swapped over, and you're still not going to have that insane low center of gravity that the, actual competition kit trucks are. But that's okay, because this thing is actually budget friendly. Compared to running buggies, this thing is a blast. Like, it always ends up landing on the wheels because it has a huge short course body on it, and it's decently low center of gravity, so it just boop right back down onto the wheels and you can keep going. And the 4-wheel drive system, even though there isn't a center diff in this, it is still just like this thing pulls. There's no hesitation in it. Even for having like a sensorless motor, you'd think it wouldn't feel that precise compared to a brushless system, but compared to my 2-wheel drive mod buggy, it feels pretty good. It's nowhere near as precise by any means, but it's definitely able to compete with other short course trucks. And I'm not quite sure with the mod guys. I mean, this thing is only have like a 13.5 in it, but for what it is, extremely good, extremely fun to run, and you could have fun too. You just have to be able to work on it and be willing to work on it for it to get to that level. So this is the BLS2, this is the build, and enjoy.